Hi guys, and welcome to Mom Babes, where every mom is a babe. And if you're like Christina, I don't feel like a babe, I have a headache, then this channel is especially for you. Oh my gosh, you guys, so I've had a headache for like the past 3 days, and it's because like the kids are sick. Obviously you get sick every time your kids get sick, but this was the worst because like a runny nose is annoying and you're stuffed up and whatever, but the headache just totally takes you out and you can't do anything, and then you're just watching the dishes pile up and the toys pile up and everything piling up, and you just feel like helpless and sad and laying in bed. Anyways, if that's you, you're still a babe. I don't have it all together. You don't have it all together. We don't have it all together, but we can hang out together. I make videos for moms who are creatives, which is you. And if you're like, dude, I'm not a creative, that's a lie, because dude, raising a live human being is the most creative thing that there is. I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel so that you can catch my videos. I release them every Thursday, and you'll never have to miss one if you go ahead and ding that bell as well. It'll be lots of fun, I promise. Ding! So today we are talking about family planning and just kind of everything that goes into it. So there is a lot to unpack when it comes to family planning. So I'm just going to kind of take you through my process of what I do. First of all, what is family planning? Family planning is trying to plan out when you are going to have kids and kind of plan and build your family. This could be like the distance of years between the kids. Also, it could be the time of year that you have a kid. So the first thing is the distance between the last child. My first son's first birthday, we got pregnant with our second son. So they ended up being 21 months apart, so just under 2 years, which being pregnant with one kid was actually very doable. But I mean, now that I have two very excited, exuberant kids, being pregnant with two sounds a little more overwhelming. So I wanted to give them some time so that the youngest one would be a little older by the time I was actually pregnant, and especially during postpartum when it's super rough, so that I could at least communicate with him and he's like walking and stuff like that. That's kind of some of the things that we were thinking about, is giving ourselves enough time. And then also, this is what we do because I'm a type A personality, is I will map out, and I'll do a visual here, all of the months, and then 9 months later, when you get pregnant, and then when you actually would have the baby. So what is 9 months after that? It sounds really simple, but it's something to think about. If you get pregnant in January, your baby's coming in October, February is November, March is December, and so on and so on. And so I will make, for me, I'm a visual person, so make like a visual chart of, okay, if I get pregnant this month, this is when the baby's coming. The other thing to consider if you have had kids before is about how long your pregnancies are. For example, both of my sons were late. My first was 2 weeks late. My second was 3 weeks late off of my due date. We all know due date is like a rough estimate number. So that is something to consider though, if you particularly have a pattern. So for me, I'm looking at if you ovulate in the middle of the month and then you're thinking, oh, we're gonna have this baby in the middle of February, but 2 weeks later is actually the beginning of March. And so why is that important? It's important because you wanna look at kind of everything else that's going around in your family at the same time. I am gonna walk through and give you kind of some of the thoughts and my thought process as I go through this chart and I look at different months. Let's actually pull out a calendar, because we have an actual physical calendar, and look at everything that we have going on in that month. You know when the busy times are for your family and when would be an ideal time to have a birthday and to have a baby. Obviously you want to think of, you know, in the next year and a half, what you have going on, but you also want to think about, this is going to be my baby's birthday for the rest of forever. And if you like throwing birthday parties like I do, you're gonna be throwing a birthday party around this time every year. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as much as you can. Obviously, sometimes whenever babies come, they come. Babies are always a blessing. But if you can plan, this is my thought process. For our family, March is such a busy time because it's Austin's birthday, it's our anniversary. We have like, I'm not exaggerating, I think 20 other birthdays. I have a pretty big family. Okay, maybe it's like 12, but still 12 birthdays in the month of March. We just have so much going on in the month of March, and usually spring break is around then, travels and things like that. For us, March is like a no-go. It's a really bad month, but for you, it might be a great month. The other time that we rule out is Christmas, December, nowhere around Christmas. We're not even gonna touch that. And then the other thing I will look at is the other kids' birthdays when they are. That may not matter to you, it may not be important, but for me, I want to give at least some space between each birthday if I can, so that it feels a little special. They feel like they have their own time. Obviously, I'm a fire wife. We kind of create space where we need to and don't always celebrate things on the day anyway. So if you end up in a situation where you're like, this birthday is actually not ideal, you can just pick a different day. And I think I've heard that parents, I wonder if this is actually real, but parents will tell their children that they're born at a different time than they actually were. So like their whole lives, they grew up thinking that they were a July birthday and they were actually Christmas, but the parents just didn't want them to know that they were born on Christmas. So they celebrate their birthday in July for their whole life until like they're old enough to look at their birth certificate and be like, Mom and Dad, what? Anyways, the point is, you can pick a day to have a celebration. It doesn't have to be on the day if that's really the best thing for the family. But let's rewind to the family planning. And if we can pick a more ideal birthday, if we have that option, why don't we do that first? Once I get all the stuff from the calendar kind of organized and I figure out when our busy times are, I will just X out certain months. Be like, nope, we can not get pregnant at all. January, February, March, that whole season we have birthday, Christmas. We're just Xing out, X, X, X. And then there'll be some months where I'll put a question mark like, oh, like maybe, or I say meh. I'll be like, meh, we could get pregnant here. It might be okay. Not my favorite. And then we have ideal times to get pregnant, which is obviously what you're going to be targeting for. Because I am a person of faith, something I will do too is I will pray about what God wants to do in our family. Children are always good. Healthy babies are always good. And I don't want this to sound like you have to wait on the Lord to like hear from wherever, but if the Holy Spirit does have something to say to you, it's just, nice to be like, hey, yo, what do you think about this, God? And just kind of pray about it and prepare your heart for that pregnancy. Once you figure out when you want to get pregnant, the next thing that would be helpful for you to do is to figure out when you are ovulating so that you can actually try for a successful pregnancy. Now, I'm gonna spend the next section of the video doing like a crash course on ovulation. If you already know about ovulation and you understand your body and you know when you're ovulating, then go ahead and skip it to the next chapter and we'll get back to more family planning details. The question is, when do I ovulate? I'm gonna give you a visual here that will kind of help you see what it looks like. Big caveat, big asterisk. I'm gonna give you the typical 28-day cycle. Not everyone has a perfect 28-day cycle. Some people have shorter cycles, some people have longer cycles. I'm gonna lay out for you the outline of your cycle so that you can see the different phases, and then you can watch for when your window of ovulation would be. And I will go through and tell you how to kind of track it for yourself so that you get in touch with your body and when you're ovulating. Typical day is about 1 to 28 days, and then they're split up into 2 phases. The first 14 days are your follicular phase. Your cycle starts on the first day of your period. So the first day that you start bleeding, that is day 1 of your cycle. And then your follicular phase is going to include your menstruation process, and then it's also probably, on average, going to include right as you're ovulating as well. And that is when you're ovulating is when obviously the egg is dropping and it's the best time to get pregnant. Your basal body temperature goes up. You have increased discharge. Your discharge has the highest elasticity. And those are some signs to look for when you're actually ovulating. So that is something that you can actually track on your own. You can do the temperature thing, but even just by watching your discharge over your cycle, if you start paying attention, you can tell, okay, my discharge is getting more and it's getting more elastic and then more and more elastic. And then when you have the highest amount of discharge, the highest amount of elasticity within, I think it's like a 4-8 hour window. Everybody's different, like I said. That's when you're gonna ovulate, and then from there you will see a drop off. So if you start tracking it, and I do recommend getting an app because it's easier, and then you always have it. Typically in your phone is with you most of the time, so that you can tell, okay, I suspect that I ovulated on this day around noon to 4. And then you can see that most apps will start to predict when you're ovulating. You can see if your app is correct, or you can just, do your own notes, or you can go old school and just like map out a calendar and write it down and have like a cute little journal and a notebook and a fun pen. But the point is to keep track of your discharge, and that is the biggest indicator of when I'm ovulating, and it's something that's pretty simple for most people to pay attention to. That's follicular phase, days 1 through 14. Days 15 through 28 are the luteal phase, and so that's when you're gonna have drop-offs in estrogen, peaks in progesterone, and those are hormones. Basically, what it's going to do is kind of lower your energy levels. Some women are so into their cycle that they will actually map out their month or their activities or their work based on what is happening in their cycle. So you're supposed to have the most energy when you're ovulating. So that's gonna be around day 12 to 14, typically. They'll plan like, okay, this is gonna be my really intense workout, or my big work day, or my time to be really creative, or my time to get a bunch of stuff done is when you're ovulating. And then as you drop off into your luteal phase where you have less energy, you're gonna space out your work a little more. Especially if you have the chance to do that. Some people who are just like, dude, I work 9 to 5, I'm working all the time, whatever. You could schedule other things in your life. For me personally, and this is where like you have to see where you're at and how your body works, but my energy for me is more affected by my workout schedule than it is by my cycle. So if I'm working out really hard, I definitely feel the fatigue of that. And it doesn't matter when in my cycle it is. For me, that's the biggest indicator. But your cycle might really affect you. So maybe mapping out when you have the most energy would be helpful as well. Also, when you ovulate, it'll be good to know because it'll help for your family planning. The other thing that you might want to consider if you are trying to pick like a specific amount of time between kids or a specific month that you're trying to have a baby is what method of birth control you are using. I will say caveat this is just my personal opinion. I'm not a doctor, but I really, really think that if you can do something that doesn't involve hormones, aka the pill or the ring or the shot or anything like that, only because in my experience and based on people I've talked to, you are at an increased risk for miscarriage when you're on the pill and you don't give your body enough time to come off before you get pregnant. Like I said, sometimes it depends on the person, it may not matter, but if it does matter for you, I don't know. That was just a risk that I didn't want to take. Obviously, abstinence is the best way to make sure you're not getting pregnant. If you know when you're ovulating, you can schedule times outside of that where you are being sexually active, you're not going to get pregnant. So that is something to at least know for yourself, whether you are trying to get pregnant or probably especially if you're not trying to get pregnant, you should really know when you're ovulating as well. Condoms, as long as they're not expired, are a really good form of birth control. Do your research. There's lots of things and if you do decide to do something that is hormone based, just make sure that you know all the side effects and you feel fully educated and informed when you take that birth control. Now, once I have, okay, this is the months that we are starting to try, I will start to prepare myself physically for the pregnancy ahead of time. Now, I do have a history of miscarriages. I did a whole video on that. I will link to the video if you want to do some catch up on my personal history. I always want to make sure that as I'm going into the pregnancy, as I'm preparing for it, that I am at my best, my max, awesome, most health. So what I do is 90 days before when I'm ovulating, because I've tracked my ovulation, so I know when I'm going to be ovulating. 90 days before, I will do a paleo diet. And basically, ours is kind of a modified paleo. You're not supposed to have yogurt, but I do like plain yogurt for the probiotics. And I do 100% grass-fed organic milk and just some things for my body that I thought I need, which is technically not paleo. So if you have certain health concerns or things you need to watch out for, allergies, obviously you'll consider all of that. The biggest thing is to cut out alcohol, cut out desserts, cut out excess carbs, kind of just eat whole foods, whole healthy foods. And the point of this is to get your body just saturated with really good nutrients. So you want to make sure that you're getting all your greens, that you're getting all your veggies, that you're getting all your stuff so that your body is at its max, that it's ready to build another person inside you. And part of that too is making sure that you are working out, whatever level that you're at, whatever that you're excited and happy about, that you feel at your best. You want to try to have that workout schedule so that you're just ready to go into this pregnancy fit and happy. And especially if you're at your pre-pregnancy weight, you're gonna gain weight throughout the pregnancy. I feel like in between each kid, if you can get back to you and what your core is, what your center is, then if you can get back to that in between pregnancies, it makes it a lot easier on your body postpartum when you're eventually ready to start exercising after the baby is kind of here for a second and your body is healed from the delivery. When you're ready to start, exercising, then you're going to have a much smoother transition versus if you didn't prepare your body ahead of time for pregnancy. So that's just something I like to do. This might be a little extreme, little type A. So I do the 90 days and then I start taking a prenatal during those 90 days. So I'm on the prenatal, I have all the nutrients, and not just like, oh, I start when I'm pregnant, but my body is already flowing with those nutrients. The extra folate, if your body doesn't need it, don't worry, it'll flush it. The other thing that I do is I get off all the beauty products that aren't clean and all of the shampoos and conditioners and lotions and scented candles and, excess fragrance and things that manufactured chemicals on your body. So even things like using a detergent that is organic, anything that, like nail polish. I love painting my nails, but when I'm pregnant and when I'm right before I get pregnant, that is something that I just don't do because nail polish is like so terrible and so toxic for you. And trust me, I know it's also my guilty pleasure, but that is something that I cut off just to give my body a time to free itself of all toxins and to be at my best health going into pregnancy. That way I know that I put my best foot forward, that I did the best that I could for this baby to give them the best shot to help this pregnancy go full term. And for me, that's really important. Like I said, because of my history, because I have had so many miscarriages, I want to know that I went in doing everything that I could for the baby. So that's kind of my perspective. If any of that sounds interesting or helpful or intriguing to you, then it's something you could try. Or if you want to do like a modified thing where you're like, okay, well, maybe you're not gonna be as extreme as Christina because she's a little crazy, but maybe I can cut out, alcohol a month or 2 months before, or, excess sugar or things like that that are just kind of hard on your body. And trust me, I like, a nice cocktail. I like a nice dessert, but sugar is an inflammatory, and I know it sucks, but it's like so not good for you, which yes, I feel you. It is such a bummer. I agree. So the other thing that is kind of fun to think about when you're family planning is trying to go for a specific gender, which there is so much like jokes, controversy. The books that I have read about it, so once you know when your peak ovulation is, you try 2 to 3 days before and that's it. And then if you want to have a boy, you try when you're actually ovulating. So I think that in like the 90s, early 2000s, like that was like the thing that's how you get a girl, that's how you get a boy. And it had like a 75% success rate or something like that. I was talking with my neighbor at dinner the other day and she was like, I just read a book that literally said the exact opposite. Like if you go 2 to 3 days early and stop, then it's for the boy, and the girl is when you're ovulating, and this is the science why. And so there's also, if you guys have seen How I Met Your Mother, where Marshall and Lily are like eating lemons and facing south and taking cold showers and just doing silly things. I don't think, the point is that's a joke, to get either a boy or a girl. That's just kind of fun to think about and experiment with. Don't go eating like a bunch of lemons. Ultimately, at the end of the day, every baby is such a gift. And honestly, it really doesn't matter when they get here. You're so excited for them and you just have this love that's overflowing, and it'll all work out. Like even if you are type A like me and you do this plan and the plan totally falls apart and the baby comes at a terrible time, it's still gonna not be a terrible time, it's gonna be the best time. And that child just gives you so much life. I love families. I love motherhood. I'm excited you're watching this video because that means that either you are a mom or that you are considering becoming a mom. And it is the biggest honor, the best journey, the best job that I have ever had, the most fulfilling, the most worthwhile thing for me. And so I'm just so excited for you on your journey. I hope that all goes well. I'm going to pray for you. Even if you don't believe in God, I'm still going to pray for you. Okay. Lord, I thank you for this mom and for the person that she is and for the talents and the gifts that you've given her. Even if she's not a mom now, future mom, that you will strengthen her heart, that you would prepare her emotionally for this baby, for this pregnancy, for this addition to the family, that you would build an excitement in her, that you would strengthen her heart and her resolve, and just let her know that she is equipped, that she is good, that she is going to be a really good mom, that she is a really good mom. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Also, if no one's told you yet today, you are doing a good job. You are doing a good job. You are doing a good job. I feel like we can't hear that enough because most of the time we hear whining and crying and complaining. So here's me saying you are doing a good job. Thank you guys for watching Mom Babes. It was really fun to have you here with me today, and good luck on all that baby making.